カビとほぼ同じサイズの微粒子をエアコン内部につけるとどうなるのか。目には見えなくても。
Before the video starts, I gotta remind you, 3, and for audio, Chris, and I'm definitely... What's up, guys? I'm Random Frank P, back with episode 215 of Room Tour Project, the series where we show off some of the best setups to give you some ideas and inspirations for your own setup. The GTX AOC as the vertical one, 3, and for audio, that little thing above the mouse are the Jaybird Vista wireless earbuds. Some other things you may notice: the Elgato Stream Deck Mini, an Essential, and the Amazon Echo Spot. This guy, desktop gadgets. Then going along with the rest of his gear, his speakers are the Klipsch R51M bookshelf speakers. Now, believe it or not, this entire setup is run from his Razer Blade 15. It's the 2018 model with a GTX 1070 Max Q inside. But also he has it hooked up to the Razer Core X, which is their Chroma GPU enclosure. And then inside there, he has the Asus ROG Strix RTX 2080 Ti graphics card. So he's taking advantage, more so the CPU from the Razer Blade 15, powering everything, and getting that extra, graphical power, whether it be for video editing or gaming, from the actual Asus GPU. So I'm definitely digging it. Again, I love the desktop, literally the actual wooden desktop and the desktop wallpaper. And it does seem to be under a bed, it looks like, with the the mattress holder, as you can see at the top of the picture here. But it's a good job utilizing the space and putting together a real nice setup. Now we've got Space Jam TV showing off the nice and pink and blue setup here. Pretty much, again, matching the wallpaper. That's what you guys gotta do. See the lights, it matches the colors. Primarily pink, the splash of blue, it all works out. Now for these two different monitors, his primary is an Acer Predator XB1, the 27-inch as the primary, with another 27-inch from AOC as the vertical one on the left side. Now unfortunately, Space Jam TV didn't really give us any shots of his overhead, like to show off his peripherals. So in front of us is the Rode NT1 microphone, and in the background we could see the Logitech G610 keyboard and the SteelSeries Rival 710 mouse. And also for audio then, the Beyerdynamic DT990 Pro headphones. They're also then sitting on a SteelSeries extra large RGB Prism mousepad. Prism, not Prison. Now on the right side you can see the PC, purples and pinks and blues, even inside, so we got these matching the colors in every way, shape, and form. This is the NZXT H700i case with an Intel i5 8600K CPU with the NZXT Kraken X62 AIO. Got 8 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RGB RAM on an MSI Z370 Pro Carbon motherboard with an Asus ROG RTX 2070 Super graphics card and a little pop figure. Across the room, I'm digging the shelf setup. You got one of those IKEA pegboards up top to organize some headphones, some controllers. Definitely like this. So okie dokie, Space Jam TV. The one big takeaway from this, again, you got some plants on each side, which is great, but I love the addition of color coding and matching those two light bulbs with the pink and blue, corresponding exactly to the colors in your wallpaper. Spoiler, you're going to want to check out my next video. It's going to help a lot of you out. Either tomorrow or Friday, not too sure yet. Next up, we have Sean K with the stacked monitor orientation. You guys know, always loving these. Lots of blue RGB going on in the room overall, with that red strip behind the desk to get that, that color pop in your face. So yeah, for those two displays, his primary on the bottom is a Dell Ultra Sharp. It's 29 inches. God, I need to be reminded to mute my laptop when I film these. But that overhead is a Prism Plus 27-inch 4K monitor. For the peripherals, we have the Razer Black Widow Lite keyboard, which is very underrated. I absolutely love it. With the Razer Basilisk X Hyperspeed and the Razer Vaspula V2 mousepad with the Bose Companion 5 speakers on each side. Looking like a real clean peripheral setup here. And then over to the PC, not too much info. I know we have a Ryzen 5 1600 CPU with 16 gigs of Ripjaws V RAM on an MSI B350 Tomahawk motherboard. And for the graphics card, all I know is the GTX 1080 GPU. Only real indication that I have about it is the fact that it just says right there, GeForce GTX. So pretty clueless on the brand. He did admit though that he had someone else build it for him and he has really no idea. He just uses it for, gaming and editing and stuff. But it doesn't matter because altogether it's definitely a nice setup. Loving the stacked orientation. I'll never not love it. Speaking of my love for being stacked, talking about the monitors, of course, we have Brandon S. And this one definitely has a really cool Japanese type theme going on. You can see with the cherry blossoms, the temple, some of the artwork, looking really cool, and obviously a pretty cool racing rig as well there. But we'll get all into that. First, for his primary setup, if you will, the bottom one is the massive Samsung CRG9, is a 49-inch ultra-wide, and the top one is a 27-inch Acer Nitro monitor. Then on the left side, he has another Acer Predator, this one the XP27HU, their gaming 165Hz display. For the gear here, this is the Next Level Racing GT Ultimate Sim with the Logitech G920 racing wheel. Then for his desktop peripherals, he actually has two of each, so he can use pretty much one pair on each side. He has Logitech G915 Lightspeed keyboard with Logitech G903 wireless mouse on the PowerPlay mousepad, so it's never running out of battery. And then for audio, on this sort of Deadpool mock headphone holder, which is pretty cool, got the Audio-Technica ATH M50X headphones with Logitech G935 headset. Then over to the gaming rig, not the racing rig. We have the Leon Lee 011, actually it's the same thing, you know what I mean. The Leon Lee 011 dynamic case inside the Intel i9 9900K CPU with a Corsair H150i Pro AIO. Got 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM, surprisingly not RGB, I haven't seen one of these bad boys in a while. With an Asus Hero 11 Z390 motherboard and an EVGA RTX 2080 Ti XC Ultra.
誕生ガムウェルプラス近年の研究から明らかになった事実なんと歯周病菌は歯茎細胞の中にも侵入していました
でもこれが事実なのですどうすれば
だからガムウェルプラス
新処方歯茎細胞への侵入をブロックして殺菌するブロック殺菌口内環境をプラスにコントロールするガムウェルプラス
口から始める健康習慣ですサンスター
弱れないぞ弱るもんか敵力だけじゃ乗り切れない胃腸から自分立て直せエビオスエビオスオスオスオスエビオス錠便秘にはエビオス成長薬
GPU. Not even to mention the Sony 65-inch 4K TV that he has literally right next to the setup. And as you can see, for a relatively smaller space, he's got a lot of gear, lots and lots of tech going on. So he comes in here and everything just, shuts the world out. It's gaming time. Really digging the Japanese theme as well. This is some good stuff, Brandon. And now we've got April, May, Rain. I'm liking the play on words there for the name. Coming in with a crazy nice setup. Here giving you guys a taste with the wide shots. You can see how clean the room is. Really, really nicely put together here. With the dual monitors side by side, we'll get into it. So this is a really nice 80-inch white desk from Uplift. It's the Eco Curve stand-up desk, so motorized, up or down. And you can see going along with everything, he has the Elgato key lights, so you can just pull down the green screen, sit in front of the desk, start gaming, start streaming. Definitely an efficient setup. So, alright, let me circle back to the monitors now. They are each an Acer Predator X34P, held together with a white dual monitor desk mount, so it's going to blend in with the desk and the walls, kind of make it seem like it's floating, if you will. Helps it blend in. And for his audio setup, you can see mounted on each side on those shelves are the speakers. Those are the Kanto YU6. And for the peripherals, we have the Corsair Gaming K95 Platinum RGB keyboard with the Corsair M65 RGB Elite mouse in white, also the white keycaps there, on the MM350 mousepad. And then we have the custom water-cooled PC. This is looking real nice. Wish the lights were on and shining bright, but that's alright. This is the Corsair Carbide 400C case inside the Intel i9 7900X CPU with the Asus Prime X299 Deluxe motherboard and 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance Pro RGB RAM and an Asus ROG Poseidon GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. Definitely a clean looking build to go along with the rest of the very, very clean setup. Great job with cable management. You can see just the two cables into the wall, pretty much powering everything here. But I will say again, I wish the lights were on and the setup was powered with the monitors and all that stuff so we could see it in its full glory. But either way, it is still a bang up job, 10 out of 10. Alright guys, that'll wrap it up for episode 215 of Room Tour Project. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget, check the description down below for it all. All the gear and hardware you saw, plus some very simple instructions on how to submit your setup. If you want to be possibly considered to be on a future episode, just check the description. Feel free to hit me up and follow me on Twitter at RandomFrankP. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.
いいものが揃ってるぞエージェント。
バリバリ働く皆様、お疲れ様です。どんな時も頑張るあなたへ、明日も戦い続けるために劇的クール洗浄、皮脂除去成分と清涼成分クールプライムメントールで超爽快な洗い上がり。今日一日の頑張りを爽快リセット。サンスタートリックシャンプー、写真シールが必ずもらえるキャンペーン実施中。サンスター。
Before we start off Room Tour Project, gotta remind you guys, it is the last few days to pick up the Random Frank P and Novel Keys Topographic Desk Pad. This is available until December 31st if you want to get in on that last pre-order extension. So I'll put a link for you in the description down below. Don't miss out. But what's up, guys? I'm Random Frank P, back with episode 199 of Room Tour Project, the series where we show off some of the best setups to give you some ideas and inspirations for your own setup. And speaking of best, since it's going to be the last episode of 2019, this is going to be the best of 2019. Going through and showing you guys my favorite ones that I thought were just insane from the past year. So what I'll do is I will try to put all the specs in the description for you guys, but what I'll most likely end up doing is also putting the episode that that setup was featured in. So you can go back if you want to find out more about it and see all the detailed specs. Go to that episode, it'll all be down there for you. So yeah, let's start it off, episode 199. This episode of Room Tour Project is brought to you by the Corsair Virtuoso RGB wireless gaming headset. Available in black or white, you can cut the cord, go wireless, and take advantage of their slipstream technology for better battery life, a better microphone, and an interference-free connection. This was also included in my top 5 gaming headsets of 2019 video. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link for you in the description down below. So first up, we have Justin B from episode 171. And what I'll do is I'll pretty much just go in order from the episodes. So starting, a few months back here from 171. So you're going to want to keep your eyes peeled because it's not going in like best of the best order. They're going to be scattered. But Justin here definitely has one of the more clean, minimal approaches to a setup, and I love how really just clean it is. Like, this is very, very minimal with a great touch all around. So for his display, it is a 25-inch monitor from LG mounted nicely to the wall to give it that seamless floating appearance, with a custom painted white chin on the bottom there to, again, just fit into the aesthetic overall. And I really like that either glass or acrylic backboard he has against the wall there to break it up a bit and give it some nice color. And then as you can see, he has things like his headphones mounted. And speaking of which, here's the Corsair HS50 headset and the Beats Studio 3 wireless. But for the rest of his peripherals, he has Logitech MX Master Mouse, with Logitech K810 wireless keyboards, both wireless peripherals there, with a white Go Groove Sonoverse soundbar. Digging that organizer tray as well. Now over to the PC, this is the Deep Cool Dukas case, and inside he has a Ryzen 7 1700X CPU with a Corsair H100i AIO, got 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance LED RAM on an Asus Prime X470 Pro motherboard with an MSI RX 570 Armor graphics card. So again, a black and white, very clean build fitting in with the entire setup. And then across the room, a really nice entertainment center. And yes, that is floating. It's mounted against the wall, but a great spot to kick back on that massive TV, get some console gaming going on. You can see the PS4 Pro there. So a really nice spot to chill, but again, it's also fitting in aesthetically. That's the whole thing with this setup. Clean, minimal, black and white aesthetic with some pops of color around. You know, I edited in the wallpaper, that's not the actual wallpaper. Something to match that sort of like powder blue acrylic backplate, the pops of green with the plants. Just Justin, really good job here. And like I said, I will try to put most of these specs in the gear down below, as well as the full episode to which the setup was featured on. Now we've got A8X, episode 175. This one kind of sticks out right away. It's pretty apparent why this makes the list. Not only is there a ton of RGB going on in just the RGB light strips, the Nano-4 light panels, but literally embedded into the floor. This is a custom DIY job. It's acrylic, he has the RGB lights underneath, and then he can make the whole room just RGB, you know? So for his main desk setup, he has 3 monitors, although you can only see 2 right now. There's a 32-inch BenQ as a primary, and the 27-inch Asus ROG Swift as the mounted display on the left side. And if you're asking where is that third display, well, it's actually right next to his peripherals, being the Logitech G513 and the G502 Hero mouse from Logitech, but the display he has built into the desk for like a monitoring display pretty much. This is actually more common than you might think, and we've seen this in a lot of setups over the years, so a pretty cool and interesting little integration into the setup. Now for his PC, it is pretty much all Gigabyte. It's the Aorus C300 RGB case. Inside an Intel i9 9900K CPU with the NZXT Kraken X62 AIO. For the RAM, we have 32 gigs of the Gigabyte Aorus RGB RAM. And you guess it, Gigabyte Aorus Z390 Pro motherboard with a Gigabyte Aorus RTX 2080 Extreme graphics card. So an entire Aorus build here. As you can see in the room, a bunch of collector's figures and stuff, a really cool display case with the lights, just to bring that whole gaming vibe to life. And then another really cool entertainment center, massive 65-inch Samsung curved TV, all the consoles, the speaker setup. But I think, as you guys see, the thing that really sets this apart from your traditional gaming setup in a gaming room is just the integration of all that RGB. The DIY RGB floor is just really cool. Custom effects, he can have it all syncing, so if he wants to do this like, you know, campfire kind of cozy theme for the holidays, he can pull it off. So A8X episode 175, definitely one to remember, that's for sure. Moving right along to episode 178 is Simon KG. Another really cool DIY job to make his ceiling seem like it's this Starry Night galaxy effect. This is all like a DIY. Did this himself with his wallpaper. It is really cool to have this like galaxy-like effect. A++ correct. Now for the triple monocle seamless floating display, really good job on mounting those as well. All 3 of them with Asus 27 are. That'll lead us right to the audio. The speakers are Logitech G560 light, along with the Ducky 1-2
strips. I know this is one thing I need. The channel runs off of coffee and Red Bull. I don't know why I said coffee. But yeah, I need some of that. And then set up the mounted up on the left side. It is altogether just a really, really cool room highlighted by the galaxy star light effect he has going on. DIY built above his stuff. Simon PG, episode 178, Killer. And then I hope you guys got your popcorn ready, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. Pirate Gamer, Original Project episode 186, with perhaps one of the craziest gaming setups of all time. Dare I say, you see it. You see what's happening right now on your screen. If you remember this episode, you remember it was no contest. This hands down stole the show and is just probably one of the best setups of 2019, possibly maybe ever. The Pirate Gamer is insane gaming room, a gaming paradise. I'll just stop drooling and we'll get to the actual specs here. So, everything here is mounted holding displays with the RGB lights integrated behind the backboard, in the desk, the LED light panels, everything. But his speed box with the mounted overhead. Going in order to the pictures that are on the screen, because there were like 50 pictures and I didn't want to exclude any of them, so I'm just going to read off the gear and specs as I've been doing. You guys can just, continue to drool over this crazy, crazy room. But his PC underneath the desk, which he has mounted literally inside, it's the Leon Lee 011 dynamic case, and he has an i9 9900K CPU with the NZXT Kraken X72 AIO, 32 gigs of G-Skill Trident Z RGB RAM, and the Asus ROG Strix GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. All RGB fans, RGB light strips inside, making it all just color, pop, and flow. And speaking of pop, all the pop things on this collectible shelf here, every one you can probably think of. That's the really cool thing that stands out about it. All the collector's items. Odds are, if it exists, he probably has it here in this room. And then across the room, he also has, obviously an entertainment center, kick back and do some additional console gaming on here, really nicely integrated into the shelves, all the controllers, the custom consoles, even all those collector's consoles. It's one thing to have a crazy room, but it's one thing to pull it off efficiently while not seeming like scattered or cluttered. Like every piece, every collector's item has its own spot, and it's not like messy, you know what I'm saying? So it's a really, really insane job here from Pirate Gamer to pull off one of the most insane, versatile gamers paradises I've ever seen, from the PC gaming, the console gaming, the everything gaming here. And the show goes on with CG Sturt from episode 188. This one does a good job of using those Lifex beams that are like they're not strips, but they're like those plastic tubes of the RGB lights, and having them integrated around the room kind of like frames the setup itself, which I think looks pretty cool. So there are 3 displays here. The primary is an LG 34-inch ultra-wide. The overhead is a 43-inch Acer 4K monitor, and the vertical monitor on the left is an Asus 25-inch display. And then down to the peripherals, we have the Razer Black Widow Elite keyboard, the Razer Mamba Elite mouse, a nice extended mouse pad there. And then for his audio game, we have the AKG K702 headphones, and the speakers are the Kanto YE4. Really, really nice, with like a kind of a white theme going on as well, which leads us then into that PC Quiet Dark Base 700 case. inside the Intel i9 7900X CPU with the Corsair H115i Pro RGB AIO, 64 gigs of ballistic sport points on an ASRock X299 copy motherboard with the Asus RTX 2080 Ti graphics card. And I'm really digging these Star Wars figures, not only in the setup, but also kind of integrated into the PC. Usually it's cheesy, but here, I think it fits the figures he has all around, like literally his wall PC is really, really cool. So you can call it a Star Wars setup if you want, but it's more so like a futuristic kind of thing. Something about those light XPs really just make it kind of different from the regular RGB setup as a whole. Now, so CG Stirk. If you're still watching at this point, comment what you do. So winding on down to episode 194, we have IJ. And I absolutely love how natural this setup looks. Obviously, with the walnut everywhere, the walnut desk and that massive backboard for the setup, which is block, I'd assume, and just having that mounted there so you can mount your monitors to that instead of the wall is a really good idea, and it makes it look really good. So his primary display is a 34-inch monitor with the overhead mounted being a 4-inch Dell display, and also mounted are his speakers, the Nuance SX6. Now we're going to check out this peripherals, really nice white-black theme going on. That is a custom XD84 keyboard with the Model O mouse in white, nice extended mouse pad. And then also for audio there you can see the JVS Labs Elements, which are powering this kind of HD6XX headphones. But I love the custom job on the keyboard. In the back you can also see the Elgato Stream Deck and stuff. A good job on matching the peripherals and the overall color as well. And then behind that, really nice NTX This one's super clean. It has an i7 7700K CPU with the Noctua NAC15S cooler, also with the Chromax cover and can covers there to make it fit into the black and white theme. You got 16 gigs of Intel Trident C RGB RAM and the RTX 2080 Ti founded edition with the NZX G12 cooler. Definitely a nice IPS build. And check it, like finish it at nighttime. How chill is this? More lighting from the lamp, cool lighting from the RGB from behind that backboard, behind the TV. It makes everything pop and stand out. And then you put it up again, nice and purple, sunset, relax, chill, nap. I love everything about this Kai J. Massive high fives. And last but definitely not least, we have Bianca, episode 197. So very recently, this was on a minimal edition, and I think it's one of the more upgraded fan favorites. Everyone saw this. This setup was just flooded with comments. Everyone was drooling over it. And right through the show, this pulled off beautifully. Good job, Bianca. One of this played a single 27-inch Dell monitor, 124 Hz, and I love the use of really cool lighting behind the display to give it that extra color and some back glow. A really unique and a really cool use of that. For the peripherals, you have the Ducky 1-2 mini keyboard with Logitech G305 wireless mouse and a Zowie Divina blue mousepad. And I love how the peripherals, even in the daytime without the RGB glowing, still match the overall color of the rest of the setup. Really, really nice. Then for audio, you can use wide speakers, as well as the SteelSeries Arctis 5 headsets. Then over to the PC, inside the NTX H500 case, with an Intel i5 9600K CPU, the NTX Kraken M22 AIO, 16 gig useful Trident C on the MSI Z390 Gaming Edge motherboard, with the Asus Cerberus GTX 1070 Ti graphics card, with some RGB fans, the NZX 2 RGB light kit side to keep colors natural, white braided cables, white custom backplate. That's how you match this. One thing I really like is the custom print she has. Really nice coloring with the Godzilla, the Gyarados, and even a custom print of the color of her wall, the moon dust there. Having that little like Pantone card, I think is a genius idea. I haven't seen that done before, although I'm sure it has been done. It's just everything here I think will be pulled off perfect. It's clean, it's minimal, but all at the same time integrating RGB, but still staying minimal. It's a thing of wonder. It doesn't have to have 5 displays and a bunch of stuff going on. It is perfect, and it is honestly one of my favorites of the year, no doubt. Alright guys, that'll wrap it up for episode 199 of the Tour Project. Hope you enjoyed this best of the best episode of 2019 and the last one of the year. What a year it's been. Don't forget, I'll have them all listed for you in the description down below in case you want to check out those setups and their episode that they were featured in. And also, last few days to check out the Random Frank P and Navalkey's Topographic Desk Pack. Yeah, what else do I say from there? I don't know. It's been a hell of a year. Thank you all so much. This series is hopefully going to keep growing and growing. Although the last few months, submission numbers have been down a lot. But now that I'm hoping that since the holidays are here and over, people got new gear, people got new hardware, people got some upgrades. Hopefully 2020 will be a hell of a year for 7. Alright, let's drive this up. I'm Random Frank P. Hope you enjoyed, and happy 2020.
ジェントが助けを求めています。エージェントダウン。速やかな医療処置が必要です。エージェント行動不能。エージェント性愛反応ゼロ。エージェントが助けを求めています。重度の外傷を検知。エージェントダウン。エージェントが死亡。
This little mounting piece that goes on the back of the monitor or TV, you screw it in, then you take this piece right here,
目標は分かってるな。誰にも邪魔させるな。
the lag bolts in, and then that's pretty much it. Then you just put this in there, and then you just hang the monitor up. So I did pretty much everything so far. That's mounted to the wall, that's mounted on the back of the monitor. I just got paint on my hand. So anyways, I can show you guys me hanging the monitor on the wall now. See if I can find my tripod really quick. That's better. Now let's simply take the monitor, flip it around so it's right side up.
エージェントがグループを離脱。
On. I'm trying to do this without getting in the way of the camera. There we go. Hang it simply like that and just lock it in place. Now,
別のエージェントがグループに加入。
you're sitting in my chair. That is pretty perfect. Looks kind of lopsided for you guys to take care of the tripod real quick. There you go. So for me sitting in my desk, that's what it looks like. It's a floating monitor, and it's tilted down 5 degrees. It says right there to reduce glare. So there's quite a bit of a difference from up here at the top down to the bottom here, but it doesn't really make a difference to me. So anyways, it looks kind of dumb right now with the paint up there. Why is my phone not focusing? There we go. It looks pretty good. I do like it. That wet paint up there is kind of annoying, but it's fine. Once we get the cords for the monitor up there, it'll be the power cord and then the HDMI cord down to my graphics card. That would be a big issue. We have some wire sleeves coming for walls too. That'll be in the mail, probably get here Friday, which is 4 days away from now. So pretty soon I can get this all hooked up and cleaned up very nicely. You won't even really be able to tell. There's be one little strip going down the wall down to my outlet over here. And that's pretty much it for the monitor side of things. Now we can go work on the PC. Now, regarding my PC, as you can see, the case is red and black right now, and that doesn't really match my gray and blue room, so I kind of like to go in there and replace this, and there's also one down there you can't exactly see with the lighting, which is terrible right now, I'm sorry, but what I want to do is replace these with a different color. Luckily, I bought this case, Cooler Master. It comes with extra ones, so I also have white pieces that I can put in there. So you can see, here's the white ones would go on the top right there, and then this is the piece on the bottom that you can't really see because of the lighting. It also came with black pieces too if I wanted to go all black, but I kind of think that the white pieces against the black case would contrast well with the replace these real quick. I'll show you guys the process of doing that with this case. Really simple to start out with. All I have to do is just take off the side glass panel, just these 4 little screws, all in 4 corners. We'll pop the side cover off, and then we'll pop the front cover off, take out a few screws, and then swap in the new pieces. So let's do that real quick. Okay, got that off. It's a good start. Now we have to take off this front cover, this whole front plastic piece. And to do that, let's see if I can show you guys this. Let me get some better lighting in here real quick. There we go, I got the flash on now. Now, I believe, oh, okay, I can see it right here. It might be kind of hard for you guys to see the tripods depending on what. Right here, there's a little plastic clip. I have to squeeze that together like so. Just squeeze it together and then push it out slightly like that.
Agent down. Agent が助けを求めています。銃と外傷を検知。エージェント行動不能。エージェントが死亡。Agent down.
But I think for now, just myself and this PC right there. So I'm gonna go put the faceplate, the side plate back on my PC.
目標は分かってるな。誰にも邪魔させるな。
And we'll see what happens next. Okay, so what we're gonna be doing now is going through my mouse, keyboard, and mouse pad. So for my keyboard, I have the Corsair K55 RGB gaming keyboard. Got this for about, I think it was $50 at Walmart. Had it for about 3 or 4 months now, and it's been a great keyboard. It's my first gaming style keyboard. It's not mechanical. It's uses some sort of memory, but it's supposed to have like a mechanical feel to it, but it really doesn't. It's a really soft clicking keyboard. That's the box. Here's the keyboard itself. Trying to show you guys. I don't know if you guys can hear that through my iPhone microphone. It doesn't have that mechanical click to it. It's got more of a soft style click. Kind of nice. I wish it had more. It doesn't. So anyways, I'm going to plug this in my PC real feels like it's really responsive. It clicks really nicely. Again, that scroll wheel does feel kind of cheap though, unfortunately. And these extra buttons, they kind of get in the way a little bit with being right next to the clicker. So that's kind of annoying, but who knows? Maybe that could be useful in some situation in gaming. It's got the little light there for tracking. So yeah, let me put all this stuff together on my desk like it should be, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. So here's kind of a better idea of what it would look like when it's actually set up. The monitor is turned on, got signed in, so yes, my background is flags. Got the keyboard set up here, and the mouse. It does look really, really nice. I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out so far. And we're not even done yet, because I want to get new lamps for my desk. I don't like heater lighting because it doesn't really fit well. I want to get some LED ones. Some PCs down there would be nice. Got the blue mouse. Blue lights on the keyboard now. That way, whenever I'm not using the microphone, I can just set it over on the side and it's out of my way of my rest of my setup here. So I think we're gonna go ahead and put it right here. So I just have to tighten this up. Let's see if I can just set the tripod up real quick. Okay. Now let's go ahead and tighten this. There we go, now it's not going anywhere. Now I can take this is in now. And now we're gonna go ahead and run this cord over to my PC and then plug it into the microphone port. I don't have a, I think it's called like an audio interface or whatever, but it like boosts the power to the microphone, makes it sound better. I don't have one of those. They're like $20 on Amazon too. I plan on buying one in the future, but right now I just don't have one. So I'm gonna plug this in a little bit once I get all the wires figured out underneath my desk. But that's pretty much the basic install of my microphone. Just the clamp, the rest of the boom arm, and then the microphone itself. And that other Amazon package I was talking about, with all the stuff that I got, got the cable sleeves, some ear clips, this is some LED flex strips, and this is a headphone stand. So I want to go ahead and install this first, see what it needs to do. So, go ahead and try that.
象を検知。エージェントダウン。エージェントが死亡。
ジェントが助けを求めています。
Keyboard, cable, and mouse cable. I want those to stay completely straight on my desk, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's all kind of bent up right now. I want it to stay like perfectly straight. It's kind of hard to do something like that. So we're gonna have to put one right about there. So again, peel off the little adhesive cover. Plop it down. Like that. Push the cable through. And then, awesome. So let's get another closer for you guys. That's what it looks like. Plug this in. Just holds the wire in place. It doesn't feel like it's gonna come off at all, so that's nice. It does make it a lot neater on my desk. It's not like all bent up and stuff. So one maybe right here. My mouse cable will also be kind of nice. So let's go ahead and do that. Same process as before. Push almost my mouse. Let me try and picture I'm sitting at the desk. How far over do I look? So we'll go ahead and put one maybe right about here. Just hold the mouse cable. So put this on. My arm might have just been covering the shot. You get the idea.
生体信号危険領域。
Small unboxing of these LED strips. We got the remote here, a lot of buttons. We've got the receiver, RGB control box. I'm guessing that's a little receiver, IR receiver, and that plugs into the strip. Yeah, and then this power supply.
外傷を検知。
側面をつくつもりだな。
I'm gonna have to like pair of scissors and I'm gonna snip that off and then we'll stick that in the desk. Alright, we got it snipped off right there on the line. It still works, so we're gonna go through and test it and we're going to be installed on my desk. So now we're gonna go through and the back of the strip is covered in adhesive. So we'll take a little strip off right there and then we're gonna stick it to the back of my desk. Probably on this little back piece of the wood here like this, but on the back side. So we're gonna go through and do that. I'll try and set the camera up a little bit so you guys can see the process, and then I'll resume here once it's installed. Alright, so there you go guys, that's what the LED strips look like when they are installed. It looks in the camera kind of dumb, you can see all the individual LEDs. They're good to see. Literally right with my finger there. Right on the back of the right
速やかな医療処置が必要です。
pretty cool. It's just a little, I don't know what material this is, like any mesh or something. I don't know. I'm really bad with fabricating, so they're really soft actually, surprisingly. So you just zip them up and then you put your wires through it. You could probably just easily zip tie these to your desk, like if I wanted to. Zip tie it right there. You just take the little clips and then you just put them together like that. It's actually pretty cool. These are actually really cheap too. And there's little holes in the wires. I'm not going to show each line to you. There's a lot.
の背後を検知
Good night, because a lot of stuff that I have to go.
What's going on, everyone? It's Ozzy from Oztox Hardware, and today we have a $500 brand new PC build guide. And this is going to be a step-by-step tutorial. I'm going to walk you through all the parts that we chose. We're going to go from there to building the computer step-by-step, all the way up to installing Windows, all of the drivers, all of your games, all of that stuff. So if you watch this video completely, you should have a fully built computer. Otherwise, I did something wrong. This is also the first time that the Oztox Hardware team, and yes, I actually have a team now, has done something like this. So really excited, not entirely sure how this will work, but hopefully it gets pretty positive feedback. Coupled with this video guide is the official Oztox Hardware website. We are finally live. We've been working on this website for about a month now, and we've been working really hard on it. And here you can find 2 articles that correspond with this video that will show you how to build a computer step by step, all written down, and also this specific computer build guide. So if you want to read that instead of watching the video, or if you just want to reference the video or reference the article, you can click on those at any time. And again, thank you guys so much for all the support and all the love. The website or any of this actually wouldn't be possible without you guys, so I'm actually very appreciative of all of you guys out there. And now for the PC build itself, this computer will be able to play a lot of modern titles at 1080p with about medium to high-ish settings, and we will test those games later on at the very end of the video once this is all built. This includes popular games like Fortnite and Overwatch and CSGO, so if you're looking to build a computer this Christmas for any of those games, this will be perfectly fine. While this build does not include peripherals like your monitor, your keyboard, or your mouse, I do have a $150 to $200 setup that will get you started, and link for that will be either in a card above me, like right here, or in the description below. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's get into the first part of this video, the parts that we chose. Starting off the build, for our CPU, we chose the AMD Ryzen 3 2200G. It is a quad-core chip from AMD that is unlocked, so you can overclock it if that's something that you want to dabble in. And it also comes with a pretty solid stock cooler, so you don't have to buy any aftermarket cooler. This is a great chip for the price. For under $100, you get yourself a CPU that can play pretty much any game out there at modest to decent settings, and it's cheaper than the competition. The i3-8100 was the other option from Intel, but it's about the same performance, and this one is much cheaper. The 2200G also comes with Vega. The 2200G also comes with Vega 8 graphics integrated, and although we won't be using it, it's good for troubleshooting, which we'll get into later on, in case anything does happen to your dedicated video card. The motherboard we chose is MSI's B450M Bazooka. It's a Micro ATX 2nd generation Ryzen compatible motherboard with strong RAM support, a solid amount of connectivity options, and a solid power delivery system, which makes it good for future CPU upgrades and also for overclocking. The motherboard comes with an M.2 slot, it has 4 SATA 3 ports, and it also has a ton of fan header and chassis fan connectors, as well as an RGB connection for customization later on. Also, because it is on the AM4 socket, you can upgrade to something like the Ryzen 7 2700 or 2700X in the future, and this motherboard should be okay for an upgrade that big. On top of that, with the new Ryzen rumors going around, you could be able to upgrade to something even better, such as the rumored 12-core, 10 or 12-core Ryzen chips in the future too. The RAM we have is G-Skill's 2x4GB module for a total of 8 gigs of DDR4 memory clocked at 2400 megahertz out of the box. For this build, you can be a little bit more lenient with the RAM. I would say just get the cheapest 2x4. That's very important. Make sure you get 2 sticks for a total of 8 gigs of RAM, clocked at least 2400 megahertz. Later on in this video, I will overclock this RAM to 2666, which really should be the minimum for any gaming computer out there, but for starters, go with 2400 if that's all you can afford. The computer will work fine with 2133 or 2400, but for the extra $1 or $2, it's totally worth it just to have that compatibility out of the box. While 8 gigs of RAM is starting to show its age, it's definitely still more than enough for a lot of entry-level and some AAA games out there. And with this motherboard, which is expandable up to 32 gigs total on all 4 slots, you can upgrade in the future. And now for arguably the most important component of your computer system for gaming, we have the video card. We chose the AMD RX 570 4GB model. As of recording this video, the RX 570 is probably the best budget card out there, especially for your money. It's so well valued considering that it's under 150 bucks and it gives you awesome performance at 1080p. 4 gigs of RAM is definitely going to be enough for the next few years for pretty much any kind of mainstream 1080p gaming, so you don't have to worry there. The model I have for this video is the Gigabyte Aorus, which goes for about $149, but similar to the RAM, you can be a little bit lenient here. Just go for the cheapest dual fan. Try to go for 2 fans, otherwise it's gonna run kind of hot model that you can find and that fits inside of your budget. An awesome perk about picking up one of these cards is that it does come with 2 free games. So even if you don't have any money for any Steam games, you get 2 free when you build this computer. Ugh. A bonus of picking up one of these RX cards is that you get 2 free games. So it's a win-win situation. As far as storage is concerned, you have several different options here. The one that we're using for this video is a 120GB inland SSD and a 1TB 7200 RPM hard drive. SSD prices nowadays are dirt cheap, and SSDs can really make a computer feel a lot snappier. They're much faster than hard drives, and they don't have any spinning parts, so it makes them last a little bit longer than your standard hard drive, and it makes your build a lot quieter. The 120GB SSD is going to be used for our Windows operating system and any of your frequently used apps and games, and then the 1TB drive is going to be used for any games that are too big to fit on the SSD or any other kind of storage or media. The other option, which we will not use in this video, is to get a 2TB 5400 or 7200 RPM hard drive. You are losing a lot of quickness and snappiness without having an SSD in the build, but you also double the storage effectively. So it's up to you. Do you care more about how fast your computer feels while using it, how fast your apps open up, or do you care more about having more programs to run? And lastly, the case, which is kind of hard to recommend because different builders have different priorities for the case, but we chose the Cooler Master Q300L. This is a micro ATX mini tower, so it can only fit micro ATX motherboards. Keep that in mind, that goes for about $40. The reasons why we chose this case: 1, the airflow is really good. 2, it has a lot of space in the back for cable management, which will be needed considering we are using a cheaper power supply without any kind of modularity. And 3, it has a nice design. There are downsides to the case, like it only supports 1 3.5 drive and 2 2.5 drives, but at the same time, it also supports full-length video cards. I think that's a worthy sacrifice for everything else you get. The power supply that we're using for this build, which I forgot to put on the table, is the 450 BV, BT, or BR from EVGA, with the BT being the highest quality of all 3, but any of them will work fine for these components. For only $30, which is about the maximum that I would pay for this kind of quality, you do get yourself a power supply with 80+ bronze certification, so you are saving some energy. And although it's not modular, it does work well with our case because of all of the space behind the case that allows for you to hide all of those cables and keep it out of sight and out of mind. And the optional case fan that we have is the Thermaltake Ring 12. It is a 120mm LED, blue LED fan. It works pretty well, it's pretty quiet, and you can get it for around $10 to $15. We're going to use this fan as our front intake fan, and you only really need one considering how great the airflow is in the Cooler Master Q300L. Now that you guys have seen all of the parts, let's get right into building the computer. Cool, so you guys are ready to build your first computer. Again, if you go to the OzTalks Hardware website, there is an in-depth article that relates to this video. You can check it out for reference if you get lost or if you just want more information. Now, there are a few tools that you'll need to build a computer. The first one is a #1 Phillips screwdriver. These things are dirt cheap, $5 or so at Home Depot or whatever vendor you want. I'm a little bit bougie, so I have a whole screwdriver set, but these things are also pretty cheap. It's about $10 at Walmart. Second thing that you might need is some kind of knife or box opening device. You're gonna have to open a lot of boxes and they will be taped up, and you could mess a few things up if you try to use your fingers, so just kind of have a knife or box cutter handy. Third thing that isn't necessary, but is more of a precaution, is an anti-static strap. If you don't have one, that's fine. These are just used to ground yourself so you don't shock your components. Now, modern components are built with pretty strong static protection systems, so it will take a lot of static electricity to actually shock them and break them. Basically, all you have to do is, before you install any component inside of your computer, just touch a conductive metal piece of something around you. So, like the tip of your screwdriver, that works just fine. Touch that, install what you need, and keep going on with your life. Disclaimer, do not use any of your components to ground yourself. Should kind of go without saying, but it probably won't end well. All right, cool. So now we're ready to officially start building. So the motherboard is going to come with a few accessories outside of the motherboard itself, but just take out the motherboard for now. It's going to be inside of this anti-static film. Take it out of the film. Leave the box where it is, because we're going to be using that as almost kind of like our surface for building. Cool. After you get your motherboard out, you're going to install the CPU. So grab your CPU box. We have the Ryzen 3 2200G, the one and only right here. You're going to want to open it up with your box cutter knife. I've already used the CPU before, so it's already open. You're going to take out the CPU on the side right here. We put the box back. We will be needing it later, but for now, just take out the CPU. Before we take the CPU out of its little box, you're going to want to lift up this lever, as you can see right here, this little metal lever. The best way to do it is to get it from the tip. You're going to pull back towards you, and then it should automatically lift up as so. So I'm gonna do that one more time. You're gonna get the tip. That sounds dirty, but whatever. You're gonna pull it backwards towards you, and then you're gonna just lift it up. Now it's ready to accept the CPU. Now we're officially ready to install the CPU into the motherboard. Orientation is important here. You need to line up this little gold triangle with the small triangle on the socket of the motherboard, and I'll give you guys a close-up so you guys can get a better idea of what that looks like. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is with Ryzen chips and AMD motherboards, the Ryzen logo is always going to be at the top of the socket. And the top of the socket is this small ridge right here. It should say socket AM4. The Ryzen logo will be in the same orientation as the socket right here. So once you have everything lined up properly, all you have to do is place it in the socket. It should literally fall in, no force is needed at all. If you're using force here, stop, so you will break things. After that, you're gonna take the lever, you're gonna pull it down, straight down, and it should just lock into place, and you have your CPU installed. Next, we install the CPU cooler. If you're using the soft cooler, which I'm assuming you are, because the build did not have any aftermarket coolers, you need to unscrew these 4 screws that hold these 2 clips together. So take your Phillips screwdriver and make sure you get that out. After they're unscrewed, put them back in the motherboard box just so you don't lose any when you have them later. Cool. After that, you are ready to take out the CPU cooler from the CPU box. And you are ready to install it. An important part of installing your CPU cooler is making sure you have thermal paste. Your CPU cooler on the back should have thermal paste pre-installed if you've never used it before. Of course, I have used this Ryzen 3 2200G for reviews and stuff, so I do not have any thermal paste pre-installed. It's already used up. Since you guys are buying this completely brand new, you will already have thermal paste installed, so you can completely skip this step. If you do not have any thermal paste installed, or if you're using an aftermarket cooler, then you will need some aftermarket thermal paste. I have some Arctic MX4. I'm going to apply that directly to the CPU lid. Now, the application of thermal paste is a very polarizing topic in the computer world, but any kind of application should be okay. Just make sure you put about a pea-sized drop directly in the center. That should be good. And that's pretty much it. Now we are officially ready to install the CPU cooler. Again, if you have never opened up the CPU box before, then you will have thermal paste pre-installed here, and you do not have to do this step. So now I'm going to line up the screws of the CPU cooler with the screw holes on the back plate of the motherboard. There we go. And I'm making sure that this little ridge right here with the AMD logo is facing this way, so I'm not blocking any of my DIMM slots. After you do that, grab your screwdriver and screw these in an X pattern. It's okay if you have to apply a little bit of force. Now that that's screwed in, take this header right here and plug it into the CPU fan header that should be at the top of your motherboard. Just to give everyone a closer look. After that, we are going to install our RAM or memory. Before we do that, make sure you open the DIMM slots by pulling back on these top levers right here. Although we are only going to use 2 of the slots, just pull back on all of them. Alright, so now we're going to open up our RAM/memory. With your other boxes. When installing memory, you want to make sure you put the sticks in the same colored slots. So I want to make sure I put these 2 sticks in either the white slots or the black slots. Doesn't matter which one, just make sure they are the same color. This allows the memory to run in dual channel, which is theoretically double the throughput of running in single channel. You don't want that. Installing memory is pretty simple. You'll have a notch on the RAM right here that will line up with one of the notches on the DIMM slot. Now, if you don't want to sit there and make sure that it's angled correctly, you can also look at where the label of the memory is, and you can make sure it's facing towards the CPU cooler. That pretty much guarantees that it's facing the right direction. So after you do that, just slide it into the DIMM slots, and then push down on both ends until it clicks into place. Awesome, so now we have most of the main components installed in the motherboard, and now is where I recommend that you test out the motherboard and all of its components installed with your power supply to make sure that everything is running properly. This is optional, but it also reduces headaches in the future in case something doesn't go quite right when you first turn on the computer. This ensures that all of your current components installed are working. Awesome, so now we have most of the main components installed in the motherboard, and now is where I recommend that you test out the motherboard and all of its components installed with your power supply to make sure that everything is running properly. This is optional, but it also reduces headaches in the future in case something doesn't go quite right when you first turn on the computer. This ensures that all of your current components installed are working. For this section, make sure you're by an outlet and you have your monitor ready, as well as an HDMI cable or a DVI-D cable. So now you're going to grab your power supply, which is the EVGA 450 VRBV or BT, depending on the one that you bought. Make sure you unbox it and put the box somewhere with your other boxes. Now that your power supply is unboxed, you're going to plug in 2 different cables from the power supply into the motherboard. So one of them is going to be the ATX motherboard 24-pin cable, and the other one, if I can find it, is going to be the CPU 8-pin or 4x4 pin cable. It is right here. And in case you don't know what these look like, they will have labels on them. Like this one says 20+4 for the ATX motherboard, and then this one says CPU and CPU This is what the motherboard 24-pin cable looks like. As you can see, there's the 20 and the 4-pin. They will be separated. Basically, all you have to do is you have to take the 4-pin. It should have these two notches on the side of it. You're going to connect it to the 20-pin. Basically, you're going to pull up the 4-pin, push it into the 20-pin, and then pull it down, and it should connect like that. And then after that, you are going to face it, the clip, this part right here, you're going to face it away from the RAM and the CPU cooler, and you're going to plug it in to the motherboard right here. It's a little bit stiff, but just keep pushing down until you hear a click. Or you may not hear a click, but just push down until it goes all the way in. So the second cable that we're going to install is the CPU pin. It's going to be 2 4-pins for a total of 8. You don't have to clip them together. Just put them right next to each other, and then you're going to install them onto the CPU 8-pin connector on the motherboard at the top left. These clips right here, these clips are going to be facing away from the motherboard, so downward like that. Just plug them in, and you're good. So now that the power supply cables are installed, make sure your monitor is plugged in. Take whatever cable that you're using from your monitor, such as an HDMI or DVI-D cable, those are the only two that are compatible with the motherboard, and plug it into the respective plug on the left side of the motherboard. I'm using HDMI, so I'm going to plug it into the HDMI port right here. After that, take the power cable that came with your power supply, plug it in, and make sure the power supply is on by flipping the switch at the back. Now, everything is currently on. The motherboard is receiving power, so try not to touch anything metal that's connected to the motherboard. So what do we do from here? How do you turn on the computer? There is no power button. Well, there are actually pins down here where if you short them, then it will receive power and you'll be able to see something hopefully on your monitor, meaning that everything is working. Now, I'll give you guys a closer look so you can see exactly which pins I'm talking about. Basically, you're going to use your Phillips screwdriver and you are going to touch the 2 pins that correspond to the power switch. And I'll give you guys a demonstration right now. And hopefully, once we do that, everything will be up and running and you'll get something on your monitor. So right here should be these 2 pins according to the guide. So as you guys can see, we are getting a picture from our monitor. There's the beauty. There's the monitor. So now that you confirmed that everything so far is working properly, you can turn off the computer. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to. Silly. Oh my gosh. Now that you've confirmed that everything is working properly, you can turn off the computer just by flipping the switch back here, or by holding down the power switch pins with your screwdriver for a few seconds, and then it should turn off. After that, unplug everything. Actually, first, after that, make sure that your power supply is turned off and unplugged. And then once that's done, wait a couple of seconds, probably around 5 or 6, and then unplug everything from the motherboard.
So let's do that. Make sure I ground myself. Unplug this.
Unplug this. When you're unplugging power supply cables from the motherboard, there are going to be little flaps. Push down at the tip of the flaps and then pull up. They should just come out. The ATX one for the motherboard itself is going to be a little bit tough. You are going to have to use a little bit of force, and that's okay. And after that, you're all set. Now that the current parts are tested and you know that they're working, we are ready to start prepping to install into our case. So unbox your computer case and take off both side panels.
So I'll do right now. These are not thumb screws. They're not thumb screws. I'll just use this.
Take off both side panels. Usually cases like this have thumb screws, but you can still use your screwdriver to unscrew them or loosen them up, and then you can unscrew the rest using your fingers. Make sure the case is facing this way and we're ready to get started. Also, there will be protected film around the case and on your side panel. I will leave that on until the very end, just so you prevent scratches or anything else from happening. Once you're done with the build, you can peel it off and it'll be very satisfying. It's almost like the cherry on top. Now, you will see that the case comes with a ton of cables, which we will use en route later, and it also comes with zip ties and a few other goodies that are actually pretty useful and will help with cable management. So basically, these two packets you can take out of the case and put them to the side. I'm gonna dump them over there. And these cables we will worry about briefly. So now we're ready to prep to install the motherboard. Now we can't just take the motherboard and install it directly inside of the case because the metal of the motherboard will touch the metal of the case and that can short things out. So we're gonna install these things called standoffs, and it's pretty self-explanatory. They're non-conductive metal or plastic components that rise up the motherboard, so the PCB of this doesn't touch the metal backing of that. And standoffs are included with the case. They were in that little baggie that was installed right here, and we kind of threw off to the side. But before you do that, you want to make sure you line up the motherboard correctly so you see exactly where you have to install the standoffs. So you're going to place it down here, make sure that this part, which is the IO region, is facing outward and is in this little gap right here. You're going to kind of push it over and kind of feel and see where the standoffs are going to go. So some of them are already pre-installed, like this one right here is already pre-installed, and this one right here is already pre-installed, and those are kind of like guides to help you figure out exactly where you need to install your standoffs. So where we need to put them, we're going to have these little circular holes in the motherboard. So these two are already there, so we're good there. So we need one right here on the top left, second one top right, third one middle right, fourth one, actually we're good right there, I believe. We need a fourth one at the bottom, and then we need a fifth one on bottom left, and then a fifth one, sixth one, or is that already pre-installed? I think that's already pre-installed. So we need like 5 to 6 standoffs. This is kind of hard to see, but that is the standoff. That is what it looks like. And I dropped it. So you can screw standoffs directly into the little holes on the case, but this case actually comes with a standoff screwer, which is pretty neat because these standoffs can get stuck super easily, and that's very annoying. So what you can do is you can put the standoff inside of the little screw thing right here. This is compatible with the Phillips screwdriver, so you're gonna just do that. So that's what it looks like. And then we're going to screw it in to all of the locations that we mentioned previously. All right, so that's one. And then you just kind of keep going. I hope you get the gist. Another way that you can make sure that you are putting the standoffs in the correct location, we know that our motherboard form factor is micro ATX. Every single place that you see a little M, install a standoff there. That stands for micro and micro ATX. So of course, that's where the standoffs will go. So now that you have all of your standoffs installed, the next thing that we want to install is the motherboard IO shield. Now this is going to come with the motherboard. So we're going to get our motherboard box. It should be somewhere underneath all of this annoying cardboard. And it's this piece of metal right here. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying.
Hopefully it's good ASMR though. It's good ASMR, I'm okay with it. Okay.
So the IO shield does exactly what you would think. It shields the IO ports on the motherboard. So what we want to do here is we want to make sure it's lined up properly with the motherboard. So let's grab that just to demonstrate for you guys. So this is the IO shield. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's properly lined up with the motherboard. Just like that. Yep, so that looks like a pretty good fit. So after you make sure that that's done, it's going to be oriented this way. So the motherboard IO shield is going to be facing this direction. And to install it, to install the IO shield, all we have to do is put it against the little ridge, the hole right here inside of the case. There should be an empty slot, so you can see my finger running through. Just gonna line it up, and you're gonna push against the IO shield in an X pattern. So grab the two corners, any two corners that are diagonal to each other, push in until you hear a soft click, and then do the same with the other corners. Also watch out, the IO shield is kind of sharp. There's definitely been blood for me trying to install IO shields. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This one is installed, and now we are finally ready to install the motherboard. So these are the types of screws that we are going to use to screw in the motherboard. You should have 12 of them, and they are the type C according to your case manual. They come with the case. So now you can grab your motherboard. Make sure you ground yourself first. You don't want to shock anything. Take your motherboard. You're going to line it up with the IO shield and the standoffs. There we go. Just like that. And then you're going to take these screws and screw them in. You don't want to screw them too tightly, otherwise you might strip either the standoff or the screws. Now that the motherboard is installed, the next thing we're going to do is install any case fans that we have. So for this video, we have the Thermaltake Ring 12. It does have an LED blue light, and it's going to be our front intake fan. Now, case fans are not necessary for the build, and this case actually comes with one rear exhaust 120mm fan, which will be perfectly fine for this computer. This case fan will just add a little more extra airflow into the case and cause temperatures to drop a tiny bit. But again, if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world. The computer will run just fine. Since we want to install the fan in the front of the case, we do have to remove this front panel connector because it's in the way. So take your Phillips screwdriver and just unscrew these screws at the top and the bottom of the front panel connector, just to move them out of the way. Make sure you don't lose the screws because you will be needing them to screw it back in.
That's pretty simple. I really don't want to break anything. You can just pull it off.
There are also two screws at the front that you need to unscrew as well. After you do that, it should literally just like slide right off. After that's done, make sure you open up your case fan. It will come with the fan itself, a few screws that we will need to install it, and a manual. You can put the manual and any other accessories minus the screws away. And so this is the case fan itself. This is going to be an intake fan at the front, and air is going to blow through this way. Air can only go through one way on the fan, and it's going to go through here. And since we want the air to come in from the front, we are going to install it with the Thermaltake logo facing away from the rest of the components. The fan we're installing will be plugged into one of the fan headers on the motherboard. Just from quick inspection, I see that we have a fan header above the PCIe slot, and I see that we have another fan header